share with you that example. One of the former judges of the Supreme Court was a judge who was transferred from Madhya Pradesh to Rajasthan because he decided against the government of the day and quashed certain orders of preventive detention. But the judge was a judge who was steeped in the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. His house at Nagpur was actually the place where Dilip Kumar Roy visited on numerous occasions. He was a great connoisseur of classical Western music, but also was a completely, shall I say, conventional person when it came to interpretation of statutes. But when he retired and he needed a surgery in a hospital, a bypass surgery, some of us who held the judge in great esteem just came to know that he had come to Delhi and was in a hospital. When we went there, we were somewhat unsure about what kind of assistance could we volunteer to a judge who was about to undergo surgery. The judge beckoned me near him and he said, "I only want one promise." He said, "The promise which I want from you is you will not mention to anyone in this hospital that I am Mr. Justice so-and-so. I want to be treated at the end of my life exactly like a normal person." It was very difficult for us to honor that advice, because in a public hospital, when you are not known, when you are not seen to be influential, people treat you very differently. And we witnessed with utter amazement that he lay in a general ward for 3 days before he was called for surgery. I want to tell you what happened to him. When he was wheeled in for surgery, they shouted his bed number. And even before the anesthesia had set in, they plunged into his heart. The judge had a trauma, and he lived that trauma for the rest of his life without ever complaining what happened to him, just because he did not mention that he was a judge. I salute that judge. He is no more with us. He is Mr. Justice A.P. Sen. I speak of him with reverence. That is why I ask all of you to bear in mind that the judiciary is an institution which consists of great personages and great people who have lived lives with complete detachment. And we are lucky that our judiciary can boast of such persons right from the 50s even up to this date. We should not be too quick to take note of what are some lacunae in the matter of appointments. Let us not forget that every pillar of an institution, including the Calcutta High Court, and the Calcutta High Court and its tradition of judges, again has been a signal of great inspiration. Justice Vijay Mukherjee, who was a judge in Calcutta, who sat with Justice Roxburgh for the maximum period in the appellate division, who later became a judge of the Federal Court and then a judge of the Supreme Court, was described by Mr. Silvai as a master of attentive silence. But he could intervene, and always intervene with a tinge of underlying firmness. But the greater the judge you are, the more you hide your learning. What I saw in Justice Vijay, what I heard of in Justice Vijay Mukherjee, what I saw in his judgments, what I saw in the writings about him, I later saw many years down the line when I appeared before Mr. Justice Ashutosh Mukherjee. I was dwarfed by his humility and his courtesy to the members of the bar. Judges are indeed some of the symbols of India's heritage. We must not speak too lightly about them. Yes, there are always certain errors and certain mistakes which have to be corrected within a system. But it is our duty as a responsible profession not to jettison the underlying values of an institution like the judiciary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashutosh Subramaniam. It's a slightly unnerving talk after him, so I will apologize for any mistakes I made. Your discourse has been a primal evidence of what good lawyering and good scholarship is about. It was absolutely enlightening to hear your examination of the moral fiber of the office of the judiciary, if I may say without fear or favor. The strength of your conviction shone right through, in a very learned deliberation, assisted in no small measure by your over 3 decades of experience in the Apex Court. Your keen insight into the many private anecdotes of the legal office have revealed to us an exciting personage that your advocate is. We as members of the legal fraternity are both privileged and humbled to hear your deliberation. The meticulousness of the arrangement of your material, the style of presentation, the emphasis on the pauses and the emphasizing have revealed to us perhaps why the Supreme Court took suo motu action to install you as a senior advocate within just a little more than 10 years of your joining the profession. Is that right? What we have today is an excellent conclusion to an extremely enlightening Sir Ashutosh Law Lecture. It has been made to us not only enlightening, but we have probably learned from what it takes to be in the profession. And all of us here collectively have enjoyed it very much. And perhaps this calls for another round of louder applause. As a token of our appreciation, the Department of Law will present to him a token by the head of the department. There are some talks which you never want to end, and perhaps his was one of those. However, unfortunately, we have to move on, and much to the fortunate of us, we have to hear the very learned deliberation of the presidential speech now by none other than Justice Aniruddha Ghosh. Justice Aniruddha Ghosh is a sitting justice of the High Court and has had a long career in practice, as well as has been a columnist for the Telegraph in Calcutta. May I welcome you, sir, to come and deliver the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, dignitaries on and off the dais. Subramaniam, in the usual combination of erudition and eloquence, has taken us through a very complicated range of complicated issues which are likely to shape our judiciary next couple of decades and also impact our republic, because from 50 onwards all the important political issues have somehow or the other found its way in the Supreme Court. Now, we are going to have an interactive session after this, so I shall be very brief. The subject was independence of judiciary. Now, I've always wondered, there are 3 organs of the state have 3 attributes which are supposed to enhance their qualities. Legislature has sovereignty. For administration, it's possibly autonomy, and judicial, it's independence. All the three attributes have a combination of power and freedom, but independence, so far as judiciary is concerned, I think envisages a greater possibility of encroachment from us to other organs. Well, that's what is expected not to happen. Now, as Subramaniam explained, there is a micro-level accountability, which I see myself as a fish in an aquarium. I am floating, but everyone is having a full view, rather than a translucent box or a packed box wherever I go. At the broader level, the question becomes more complex. The two houses of the parliament decide something. Who are you to judge? Now 31, and sometimes 2, 3, 5, 9. If you ask me, I do not have a direct logical answer. But as the great jurist Oliver Wendell Holmes, he commented, life of law is not of logic but of experience. Experience is showing that an independent judiciary is never a threat to a democracy's well-being, but improves the quality of democracy. All the civil law countries are in a roundabout way are introducing this concept of basic right. So possibly experience has shown what Chief Justice Marshall in 19th century introduced, possibly without knowing the full impact of Pope, Marbury versus Madison. That has become the global standard bearer. Now, we are not, one of the clauses of Bangalore Declaration or possibly in the accountability bill, we are not supposed to speak much of political, social subjects in public view. So, except in academic setup, possibly this qualifies. I shall not take long. I think all of you are waiting to interact with Mr. Subramaniam. So, I will conclude my presidential address here only. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Lordship. While the interaction will commence very soon, we will now hear observations from a former Chief Justice of the Calcutta and the Mumbai High Court, as well as the grandson of Sir Ashutosh Law Lecture, Justice Ashutosh Law Lecture.
I was minded to go, not only for the reason I have another engagement to keep, but it also, as the announcer has been saying, after a devastating eloquence, my mute voice would not add much to this. But then, I suppose the question of judicial independence will ever haunt us. I was faced on one occasion, as Mr. Gopal has mentioned. But point is not the way one judge is appointed. But what is important is to some standard of values, certain code of conduct, not written into laws, but one in its mind, a judge functions. As Mr. Gopal Subramaniam had said, about Justice Vijay Kumar Mukherjee, and about I had personal, being a youngster at that day, I had occasion to see. I'll give you some odd incident. He was still Supreme Court, and he wrote a letter to my father, they were known each other very closely, that he wanted to visit Hyderabad and inquire of my father could you suggest a place where he could put up while he heard war? Preferably could be a Dharamsala even. That did not in any way, diminish the stature of Vijay Kumar Mukherjee. Even I know of Sir Manmohan Mukherjee, one of the acting judges of this court, of Calcutta High Court. He, invariably went to Banaras, used to stay in Dharamsala, Pandit Dharamsala is called. Yes. Where you live must be a decent place, a clean place, not necessarily a place of luxury and splendor. Therefore, the judge's position is determined not by the attributes, the facilities he gets. He started by saying that the judges are public servants, as Justice Vereshchansky's Supreme Court firmly established. I remind you of the first contempt case of the Calcutta High Court. That was a case where the then editor of the Statesman, Mr. Knight, was hauled up for having published papers relating to Justice Dwarkanath Bidder, the second Indian to be appointed to the Calcutta High Court, where the litigant, the European at that, had criticized in scathing terms Justice Dwarkanath Bidder. Contempt rule was issued sitting with our first Chief Justice. Then the contempt case came up. The person tried to hide in a judge's house, but ultimately he was caught and brought before the court for a trial. That was followed by the second contempt case before the High Court. When you have time, kindly read. I'm sure Justice Mr. Gopal Subramaniam has read about it. At the end of long passage of verbs, read an Advocate General, I believe it was Paul. At the end, he exonerated the editor of Statesman on the closing lines of the judgment of the first Chief Justice of our High Court. He said that we are judges, we decide in public searching eye. Therefore, criticisms are made. If they are fair, I am prepared to face them and I welcome them. So I suppose the criticism of judges, but not the prejudicial comments, sneaking, slide away when you speak about the judge, that would not fall from. Secondly, all the great judges who we esteem and worship, they have been judges appointed at a point of time